Hi there and welcome to this video on essential watercolour skills for urban sketches. Now I'm going to be sharing some tips and some skills here on this video that should help you if you're just getting started in your urban sketching journey or you're new to watercolour generally. So should we get started? The first tip I'm going to share with you is know your materials. So I would really recommend using watercolour paper rather than cartridge paper or normal sort of copy paper or anything like that. I would use a reasonable thickness of paper. If it's branded as watercolor paper, it'll probably be okay. But do know there's different types. You get hot pressed, which is smooth, and you get cold pressed, which is rough in texture. And both those types of paper have very different characteristics when it comes to how the paint moves around on them and how it settles on them. So it's really worth experimenting a little bit, either doing a bit of research on what those two different papers are and how they work, or just experimenting. So I won't go into that into too much detail here, but I would say get some decent quality paper. And the same goes for your watercolours. There's lots of pans of watercolour out there you can buy for £3 or £4 and they're chalky and horrible and you'll never get good results. So get yourself something that's student quality at least. So there's the Cotman set from Winsor & Newton and Derwent, and these are reputable companies, and I think for $20, you know, or so, you can get a reasonable small watercolour set of say 12 colours, which is all you need to get started really. So tip number 2 is how to do a lovely flat wash. Now that sounds simple, right? You just put the paint on and go down the page, but it's really not, and it does take a little bit of practice. Now what I've learned is if you could have the paper at a little bit of an angle, you can either hold it up while you're doing it or put the paper on the easel. What happens is the water will run downhill, and then you start at the top and then you chase the bead down as you go. Now you can see from this B-roll here that there is a bead of water that forms at the bottom of the wash when you put it on, and you can use that bead and you can chase that bead down as you go. Now to do this you need to mix up probably more paint than you think, and you also probably need to use a bigger brush than you think, because you don't want to keep reapplying it. Ideally the easiest way to do a perfect flat wash is with one brush full of paint and you go down, but it's not always that easy, particularly if you're doing a big sky or something. So getting a flat wash is actually a skill that it's worth just practicing on its own right. You know, don't try and incorporate that skill into a picture. Just sit there and do some blue skies, you know, or do some red, or even try doing some gradient washes where you start at one side with a sienna and you start at the other side with a blue and bring them together. Because just practicing that swatching effectively, so you're just doing a box and just put some single colour in it, it's going to drive your skills forward probably a little bit quicker in that specific area, doing it again and again and again and again, rather than just incorporating that into drawings as and when it pops up. Which brings me to tip number 3, and that is brush sizes. Now, sometimes when you start off, it's easy to buy one of those cheap sets of like 10 different brushes, and that's actually quite useful in a way because you can try different brushes and see their characteristics. But generally, I would say what I've learned over the years is what you need is a small mop brush and a detail brush, and that's it really for most stuff below A4 size really. But it's definitely worth having a detail brush for doing small bits of detail on a drawing, whether that's, you know, aerials or TV aerials or small bits of foliage. But you also need a brush which is probably slightly bigger than you think. So when you're doing big wet washes and splashing paint around, it can hold some paint in it. So for tip number 4, now for this tip, it's about the order. So if you're doing urban sketching, you were going to draw something out in, you know, normally it would be in sort of waterproof ink, and then apply watercolour over the top of that. But what I'm going to suggest you do is work the other way. Sometimes it's really interesting to flip the process, start with the watercolour. It's an interesting way to look at tones within drawings and to look at shade and light values, and then put the ink in afterwards. It makes you think about the process of how we actually put colour into our artwork to give it structure. There is a lot more to line and wash than just colouring in. So one of watercolour's sort of superpowers is the ability to be able to drop lots of little bits of colour onto the page and let them sort of move around, which is what happens in nature. You know, if you look at trees and skin tones and anything really, stone walls, you know, where you have colours that are all sort of mixing and working together. So instead of mixing a little bit of the right tone for a roof or a wall on the palette and then applying that to the paper, actually what you really want to be doing is going straight to the paper with something approximately right and then tweaking it and adding different bits of colour in patches while you're there, and you'll create this lovely random colours. So try mixing, even as an exercise, draw a really rudimentary tree. I've got a video where I've done this, where I've got a really simple tree and I've got one or two colours from the palette, mixed them and put them on. And then I've actually just randomly dotted in some different colours from the palette into the tree until it looks vaguely right. And the one way you're mixing colour on paper just looks so much more interesting. So don't be afraid to add in little dots of colour into what are quite flat washes, and it'll really break it up and give it some life. So number 6 is do some swatching. Now swatching is where you just do a little test area with a paint, see how it mixes with other paints, or just to test it on its own to see what its qualities are, to see how much granulation there is, to see what happens when you drop some water into it and how it flocculates. That's a great word, isn't it? Flocculate. So the reason why I find swatching quite important is when you're getting to know your paints, but it's also seeing how colours mix. Now I can show you some examples here of some swatching that I've done previously with my Daniel Smith paints, and how when I first got them I did this to sort of look at the qualities of them to see how those colours work together. And I'd say it's a really interesting way of practicing and getting to know your paints without actually doing a drawing. The pressure's off a little bit when you just swatch with them and have a play. Definitely do that. So number 7, we tend to consider watercolour paints to be quite an old-fashioned medium, and it can look quite staid. And I'm not going to use the word boring because it's not boring, but when you build them up in layers and you lay out a lovely landscape, it can look traditional, I would say. But don't think for a second that watercolour as a media has to be like that. There is lots of examples in the urban sketching world of watercolour having a lot more expression, having a lot more feeling and a lot more energy. You can splash it onto the page. You can do a watercolour, an urban sketch where you just use 2 colours. You can use ridiculously bright colours that really don't even feature in that scene to blow the thing up and to give it real energy. You know, if you're doing urban sketching particularly, you're often doing scenes where there's movement and dynamicism and, you know, buildings and people, and you want to add a little bit of drama into it. So don't be afraid of using watercolours. That sort of notion where you see, you know, somebody with their tongue out the corner of the mouth and they're doing this delicate stuff, you can do that and you can add in little delicate features. But I would encourage you to get loose and to get more gestural and to just be bold with it. Don't be afraid of going over the top, because if you never go that far, you'll never know what over the top is for you. It's the same with overworking and underworking. People comment a lot that they're often worried that they overwork their pieces. Well, the only way you can really understand if you are is just to completely overwork them. Do it several times. Draw a piece specifically because you want to see how far you can go without going, oh, actually, I don't like it now. And once you've gone beyond and above, you'll start to get a feel for exactly how your art works. It's a little bit like in places like Finland and Scandinavia when they're teaching kids to drive. They will take them to a skid pan and purposefully get the car out of control so that when it comes to driving on the snow and ice, they have the confidence, and if the car does get out of control, they can sense it. Whereas I think in sort of over here in Britain, we don't do that. And that's why as soon as you get any snow and ice on the road, you see so many cars stuck in hedges. So I hope that makes sense, apart from my strange analogies about cars. If anybody wants to know anything more about watercolours in terms of how to do skies, or, you know, specifics on brushes or sketch pads or paint, you know, there's loads of stuff on my channel about that, so have a wander around. If you want longer videos, there's my Patreon, or become a member of the channel, there's longer videos there. So yeah, and if you want to, you know, buy me a coffee, there's a link below for that. So I hope you found that useful. Do have a look around, and if there's anything else, you know, any questions you have, drop them in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that jazz. Cheers guys, bye bye.